Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football.
We are 5-3 and returning to LV.
Today on the show, we'll be looking back at the big win versus the Chargers in LA. And then we'll be looking ahead to our next opponent, another division rival, the Denver Broncos.
We would love to hear from you, Raider Nation. So here's how you can get in touch with us. Leave us a message on the Only Nation podcast voicemail line at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Be sure to leave us your name and address when you leave your message, or you can leave us a text message. Our email address is onlynationpod@gmail.com, and we can also be found on Twitter and Instagram at onlynationpod. You can also check us out on Facebook and YouTube at the Only Nation Podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on your favorite social media accounts and podcasting apps. Don't forget to send us a message with your name and address, and we'll get you some free Raider merch sent out. Also, check out our website at onlynationpod.com.
Okay, first segment.
Here's the latest Raider news.
The Raiders played a tight game against their division rivals, the Los Angeles Chargers, on Sunday, and the team came away with a 31-26 victory. Thanks to late-game heroics by reserve corner Isaiah Johnson, a potential game-winning touchdown at the end of the game by tight end Donald Parham was broken up in the end zone. This game begins a 3-game stretch against Western Division opponents in consecutive weeks, for only the 8th time since 2002. Never once in the previous 7 attempts have the Raiders come out of those stretches with a winning mark. But they took a big step in that direction this time.
Yeah, you know, we got to keep winning, stacking up these wins. That way we can give ourselves some room. You know, we got the Chiefs coming up again. We need to get this win. It would be great to win these 3 games, though. It would be really great.
If we could just go 2-1, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm realistically hoping for. In the game, Derek Carr threw for only 44 yards in the first half, but finished the game with 165 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, including a 45-yard strike to Nelson Aguilar and a big 53-yard completion to Hunter Renfrow on a critical 3rd down. Those were 2 amazing plays. That one to Hunter Renfrow, that might have been his best play as a Raider, period.
And how valuable has Nelson Aguilar been over the course of the season so far?
One of the best free agent signings we've had, you know, in a while.
Yeah.
I think he's much better than Michael Crabtree.
Yeah, I'm really liking the pickup of the alligator. I'm still going to call him Alligator. It's just a really cool nickname.
I think he will accept it with the level of play he's playing with right now. I think he would kind of smile if he called him the alligator, as long as they keep throwing the ball.
I mean, alligators are kind of ferocious.
Yeah. And when they, you know, bite down and clamp down on you, you know, can't get out of it. So as long as he doesn't drop the balls, it kind of makes sense too, you know.
There you go. Let's turn it into something positive.
And if you grab an alligator by the tail, it's kind of dangerous.
It can be. True. They really don't like that. And as we just mentioned, Isaiah Johnson, a.k.a. Big Play Zay, was the unlikely hero of the game at the very end. In fact, he became only the 2nd player in the last 20 years to break up 2 game-winning touchdowns in the final 10 seconds of the game. The other time, it was done by some dude, Denver Hall of Fame quarterback Champ Bailey. He did it 11 years ago. That's some pretty elite company right there.
If you can be in the same company with a Hall of Famer, absolutely.
Man, you know what, though? How was there 1 second left on the clock? Like, come on, NFL. There was not 1 second left.
How did they get 4 timeouts?
It's the Raiders. Come on now.
I don't know. That was a huge play by Isaiah, though. That was something that we needed. Our offense, you know, was putting up points. You know, we even though we got beaten time of possession, we were playing well. sometimes the defense, they need to step up and win a game. And twice they've done it this year, once against Carolina and then this game where they had an immediate impact on the play. Of course, overall versus the Chiefs too, in the second half, they had, an impact on the game and help us win that game. But when it comes down to just, one final play, our guys need to step up consistently, and we will make a good run in the playoffs. Leading the way on defense was the man known as the Dude, Nick Kwiatkowski, with 13 total tackles and 10 solo tackles, followed by LaMarcus Joyner's 12 total tackles, 10 of them solo. And Jonathan Abram had a good game too with 10 total tackles, 6 of them solo. Also, both Max Crosby and Carl Nassib recorded sacks for the Raiders. Pretty good turnout for those guys.
Starting to wake up a little bit as far as the pressure goes on the passing.
Yeah, I like Nassib playing more and more. He's got that big contract, so he definitely needs to play more and allow Clelin Ferrell to move around because he was playing well too. They're saying he's turning the corner. So if he can turn the corner and we have 2 solid guys on the edge with Crosby and Nassib, that's going to be dangerous, especially when Hurst comes back, healthy and can help push the pocket in the middle. That would really help out in the long run, because Malik Collins, he's not doing it. So if Clelin Ferrell can be that guy that we all thought Collins was going to be, that can definitely ease the tension in the air as far as where we picked Ferrell, amongst the Raider Nation. There's all those feuds like about whether we should have picked him and whatnot. But if he can just become a valuable defensive lineman that can move around, it'll make it worth it.
I'll be completely honest with you. I was really worried about Carl Nassib being a complete bust over the first few weeks, not really doing anything. But the fact that he came out and actually produced and got a sack this week really kind of bolsters my optimism a little bit.
And he's always been kind of a slow starter as far as practice goes. So maybe it's just taking him a little bit longer to translate that into games for right now.
I'm hoping that's the case.
And also he's learning a new defense. So, but now's the time for the whole defense period to start picking it up and getting used to the system and playing with each other, building that chemistry. So fingers crossed. All right. The offensive line with 3 starting offensive linemen out, including Colton Miller missing his first game as a professional over 3 seasons. And with the backup left tackle and right tackle, the Raiders still amassed 320 yards in total offense, 6.4 yards per play on only 1 sack allowed. Mad props to Tom Cable. Yeah, Tom Cable, I wanted him to stick around when we were 8-8. Of course, all that happened with Randy Hansen and all that. And then, the allegations off the field. But I'm glad he's back, and he is really coaching up this team. Yeah, he's a great pickup.
Yeah, and they really opened things up for the running game, too.
They did. They took control of the running game, and that's really what they needed to do.
And Devontae Booker, he, again, had a fantastic game. In fact, this time I think he actually led the team in rushing with 68 yards. Josh Jacobs had just a little bit lower than that. But he did it on fewer carries.
Yeah, we have a solid backfield shaping up right now, especially with Ingold. He can be that big bruiser that we've all been thinking we needed, but with Booker and Jacobs, they have some different styles of play, slightly different. And then you add Ingold, we got a really good backfield.
Yeah, I'm really happy with where we are right now.
On Monday, Raiders coach John Gruden was asked to rate Derek Carr's epic Superman leap, and he played along. Coach Gruden said he would probably give him a 9.5. He went on to say that he would like to see Derek Carr land on his feet for a perfect 10.
There you go.
That was funny. Regardless, you have to like the way that Carr is using his legs to make something out of nothing to keep the drives alive. We've all seen him do it. Like I've said before, last year he ran for more yards than what he did in 2016. And I think this year he's already ran for more yards than he did last year. He just had to believe in his body again. The guy injured his back, injured his leg, multiple offensive changes, coaches, and just look, he's back. He's back.
Yeah, you can definitely tell he's a different player this year.
All right. Now, I want to preface what we're getting ready to get into with something I just saw on Twitter. Now, we're recording this on Veterans Day, Wednesday, November the 11th. Now, neither of you may have remembered this, but today is the 18th anniversary of an epic play by the Raiders against the Broncos. So on this date back in 2002, safety Rod Woodson had a 98-yard pick six versus the Broncos. It was a pivotal play for the 2002 regular season, and the Raiders ended up winning that game 34-10, and it was in Denver.
Cool.
That's the game where Rich Gannon broke a record for completed passes, right?
I believe so. It's the same game. On Saturday before the game against the Chargers, the Raiders activated defensive tackle Daniel Ross, and he was actually able to see some game action on Sunday. In a corresponding move, wide receiver Rico Gafford was waived. But then, after he cleared waivers, he was re-signed to the Raiders practice squad. The Raiders also signed defensive back Rashawn Golden to the practice squad and reverted both defensive end Chris Smith and offensive lineman Jared Jones-Smith practice squad from the active roster. So not a lot of big moves, but some moves nonetheless.
Yeah. And if they call up Chris Smith one more time, he's going to either have to stay on the active roster or be waived. So hopefully we find a spot for him. I really like him. He was a Heidi's hero a couple of weeks ago. Got a great story. And he's just somebody that you really want to root for.
He sure came from out of nowhere when he first made his appearance on the field.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he played great.
Now, in the continuing Trent Brown saga, the team announced that he's been placed back on the COVID-19 list, and he could miss at least a month with the team. All this after he came in contact with someone who tested positive for COVID, had the issue with removing his contact tracer, impacting a few of his teammates, coming back off the list and having a monster game against Kansas City, then having the freak mishap with the IV before the Buccaneers game, and now going back onto the COVID list. He's basically played one game and the first 3 snaps of the season for the Raiders. But love him or hate him, and even if he's done with the Raiders, our thoughts and prayers are with the man in his efforts just to get well again.
Yeah, this is odd to say the least, how this has all gone down. I hate seeing this. You know, the guys from Texas, I had high hopes for them, but it was not smart to be out there without your contract tracer. You know, you're breaking the rules, and so Raider Nation's already upset with him about that, and now he's dealing with all these after effects of it. You know, yes, our prayers go out to him, but this has really been a bad signing.
As weird as this COVID year has been, this whole thing with Trent Brown has just been outright bizarre.
Yeah.
Now, according to NFL.com, NFL owners have adopted 2 resolutions. The first of these is an approved proposal to reward teams for developing minority coaches and front office executives who become head coaches and GMs elsewhere, subject to NFLPA approval. So basically, when Kansas City assistant Eric Bieniemy gets his shot at becoming a head coach next year, the Chiefs will get a couple of compensatory picks. Great job, NFL. You screwed up again. Let's hope this doesn't pass. What do you guys think about this?
I don't know. I don't know what to think. I mean, I guess they're just doing what they got to do to get more African-American coaches on the field at the head coach position. I guess that's what they feel like they got to do. You know, I don't know what to say. I'd like to see more African-American coaches on the field, but I don't know.
Well, I would too, but I think that they're messing up the way to do it. Just giving teams, throwing out incentives and giving teams extra picks for somebody who's just gets promoted to another team. So now you're going to give the Chiefs picks for somebody else who's going to, they're supposedly developing him to move on to another squad. And the Chiefs get compensated for that. That makes no sense at all. I'm all for affirmative action. I'm all for people getting opportunities, but this is not the way to do it. Now, the second proposal is an expanded 16-team playoff, which Heidi mentioned last week and was unanimously approved by owners, but amended to not have any reseeding during the playoffs. Now, if this happens right now, this season, the Raiders would be seeded 6th. So we're sitting in good position right now.
We're going to the playoffs.
Let's win this game, and then we'll start to feel a little bit more confidence.
I'm with you. Let's just get some wins under our belt now.
I don't think we're going to have any kind of collapses. I don't think this is going to be like last year when we were 6-4 and then it all went downhill. We've obviously proven to have the depth. They got the kind of players that they want. Isaiah Johnson doing that, what he did in the end zone at the end of the game, man, that shows a lot. Kwiatkowski was a great signing in the middle. Now we're moving Cleveland Farrell around. Like, this team is only going to get better. This team is only going to get better, especially when the people start coming back, the players start coming back healthy. So we are going to the playoffs. I'm calling it right now. We are going to the playoffs. Remember, John Gruden came back the first year. He had to deal with the Khalil Mack nonsense, right? We led a bunch of games going into halftime and going into the fourth quarter. We just did not have the roster to finish games. Last year, there was just a collapse because, again, we did not have the roster. But this is our third year. We have a roster, and we have our quarterback playing well. He's elevating the play of the other players, okay? I think you were throwing out a stat, T3, earlier, that he's hit 14 different players for what was that stat again?
I can't remember. We were talking about it earlier, but he's definitely hit it for 14 different receivers. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, look, this team is playing great. This team is playing great, and we're going to the playoffs.
I think we should go to the playoffs.
I'm still stuck on the Trent Brown thing.
So, Heidi, we're going to give out some game balls this week for the Raiders against the Chargers. Who have you got this week?
Well, I personally have a guy that I've already talked about, and that is Isaiah Johnson. Broke up 2 potentially game-winning passes in the final 10 seconds of the game, and he did it with a heavy heart. He had just lost a really good friend of his, Kadarian Smith, that he played with at the University of Houston. He had been killed. And he had kept that pretty private, but he dedicated the game to him because that's just the kind of man he is. And I thought that him being able to go in there, pull it off, and be able to remember a fallen friend of his, it just really spoke volumes to me that he deserved not only the game ball for his playing, but for who he is as a person.
For me, I'm going to go with the dude, Nick Kwiatkowski. 13 tackles, 10 of them solo, man in the middle, putting everybody in position, and then the stuff on the 2-point conversion where he just stood up the quarterback for the Chargers. That was huge, okay? That's what forced the Broncos to go for it, for a touchdown. Otherwise, if they'd have got that 2-point conversion, which a lot of times, in the past, a player doing something like that, they would have gotten in. Because we didn't have the players that we needed to win to stop that. But that was a huge play. It was probably one of the biggest plays next to Isaiah Johnson, deflecting or knocking the ball loose in the end zone. But Nick Kwiatkowski is probably going to be one of my favorite linebackers, since Kurt Morrison. In fact, I want to buy a Nick Kwiatkowski jersey. I mean, I'm going to give it to Nick Kwiatkowski.
We were talking about that earlier. So you were all fired up about getting a Nick Kwiatkowski jersey. But we'll work on pronouncing his name between now and then, too. So we'll just call him the dude. We'll have to bring him on the podcast too, because he is the dude. So I totally agree with you. Now, as far as game balls this week, I've got to give out 2. I got to give one to Brandon Parker and one to Sam Young on the offensive line. So these are 2 reserves who came in, and we were all worried last week about Brandon Parker when he came in, and he held it down pretty well. And they called on him again, and he did the same thing. So this time he came in as a reserve and held down that tackle position. Sam Young came in. He's battled injury all year. He held it down on his side. So got to really give Tom Cable his credit and his due. And Homer, you've mentioned this, and I have too, that he did an unsung job as the Raiders head coach, and he may have gotten a little bit of a raw deal. And of course, people kind of raised their eyebrows when John Gruden brought him back in 2018, but he's done a really good job holding this line together and making people serviceable in more than one position. Having guys ready to go and ready to plug in holes when they need. And they've been able to do that, sustain a good running game, and keep Derek Carr upright and keep his uniform pretty clean. And so I'll give an honorable mention to Tom Cable, but definitely have to give game balls this week to both Brandon Parker and Sam Young on the offensive line.
Yeah, Cable definitely deserves it. I've been a big critic of his. I actually liked it when he was interim head coach, but I've been a big critic of his as the offensive line coach. He's done a pretty good job for the last year and a half. And that brings us to our next segment.
And now it's time for another Heidi's High Five.
Here is this week's version of Heidi's High Five. Number 1, Raiders running back Devontae Booker spent his first 4 seasons with the Denver Broncos, 2016 to 2019, after originally being selected by the club in the 4th round 136th overall of the 2016 NFL Draft. Let's see what he does against his former team. Number 2, this week's matchup pits 2 Alabama teammates against each other, both wide receivers. One is the guy I wanted. The other is the guy we got. Well, now that Henry Ruggs III is a Raider, this is the game where he can begin to make the statement that the Raiders were right to make him the first receiver taken in the 2020 draft. Now, we've just got to see it and see a lot more of it. Number 3, the Raiders have split the season series with the Broncos in each of the last 5 seasons dating back to 2015, while riding a 4-game winning streak at home against the division rival. The Raiders also hold a 64, 53-2 lead in the all-time regular season series and will look to improve to 3-0 against AFC West opponents this Sunday. That would be huge. Number 4, right now the Raiders are 5-3, their best record at the halfway point of the season since they were 6-2 back in 2016, the last time they made it to the playoffs. Before that, you have to go all the way back to the year 2001 when they were 6-2 in John Gruden's last year of his first tour of duty with Raiders. And number 5, if you're into betting, this is worth noting. The Las Vegas Raiders have now covered in 4 straight games against AFC West foes, thanks to Isaiah Johnson. And if they win by more than 4.5 this week, that will make it 5 straight. The Raiders rank 8th in the NFL in rushing yards per game at 131.6, while Denver ranks in the bottom half of the league in run defense, giving up nearly 120 yards per game. And that is this week's version of Heidi's High 5.
No, I'm just really looking forward to see Devontae Booker taking on the Broncos. It seems like he never really got a chance there, and he's starting to get one here with the Raiders. And I'm looking forward to see how motivated he is to show them that they made the wrong decision.
You think there's any incentive there?
I think there's a little bit. I think it's just an emotional.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, I want to see him do well because there's always an ex-Raider that comes back and plays well against us and helps a team beat us. It's about time that these players come to us and help us beat their former teams. And it would be a great way to start that with Devontae Booker just running all over the Broncos.
I'll be there with my pom-poms cheering him on.
I'm hoping that Alec Ingold is back, but if he's not back and they need some short yardage to go, I bet you Devontae Booker will be pounding his shoulder pads and saying, give it to me.
Well, what's interesting is this week we had fullbacks come in for tryouts, but we didn't sign any yet as of right now, Wednesday evening. So since we haven't signed any yet, but by this point in the week, there's probably a good chance that we're not going to sign one, and that bodes well for Ingold.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. I love him on the field.
I got an idea for a fullback.
Marcel Reese?
Nick Kwiatkowski. No, he's done. Put Kwiatkowski in there. That dude's a thumper. In short yardage situation, let him run through the line and bust somebody in the head.
Can you hold on to the ball?
You don't have to hand it off to the fullback all the time. Just let him go. Like I said, short yardage situation. You know, you got Josh Jacobs, who is turning into one of the better short yardage running backs that we've had since Marcus Allen and Zach Crockett. You know, you could put a Kwiatkowski in there, and let him run through the middle and bust somebody in the head. You know, he's going to hit somebody.
Well, I've got another idea. If they're not going to pass him the ball, let's put Foster Moreau in there.
That's a good one.
I'll take whoever as long as we win.
Right.
All right. So what do the Raiders need to do this week to begin to position themselves for a playoff run?
Heidi, what do you think?
I think, first and foremost, the most obvious, they need to win. And I believe one of the keys is going to be running the defense properly. The last couple of weeks, they've done better. They need to keep it up. Switching up schemes, blitzing, putting pressure on the quarterback, basically doing everything that they didn't do the first 7 weeks of the season. That's going to be the key. First of all, win. Second of all, get the defense humming and working better than it has been. And then I'd say, thirdly, Derek Carr just needs to keep moving around the way he has been. He's been doing really good this year. As long as he keeps moving around, I think we're going to do okay. And I don't know, maybe feed Waller a little bit more.
Well, I agree with you. I think number one, they need to just win. But I think this week, I think they need to win big. And in order to do that, several things need to happen. Number one, I think they need to get back to controlling the ball. They need to be able to run the ball well and just keep that Broncos defense on the field, keep them winded. I think we also need to switch it up. We need to involve both Waller and Ruggs in the passing game, which is something that's been absent for the last couple of weeks. And I think we not only need to win, we need to win big. And we need to put the points on the board early. I think if they get the ball, if they get the choice, they need to take the ball first. I know Gruden usually defers, but I think they need to take the ball first this time and take it all the way down the field and make a statement. And the other thing is with the defense, we need to make more big plays. We need more sacks, and we need more than just one turnover. I think we need to really harass Drew Lock all day, get a couple of hits, get a couple of big turnovers, and really make Denver think all day. Make them come across the middle and have those receivers know that if the ball's coming their way, they're going to pay. Just like the Raiders of old. I think we need to make that statement like they did back in the day, that the Raiders defense is tough and they're prone to make big plays, and they will make big plays, and get some of that swagger back. So I think they need to not just win, but win big this week.
Homer?
Man, y'all said everything. Y'all covered it all. But for me, I just want to see our defense keep the opposing offense under 24 points. All right. So last week, of course, the Chargers scored 26, but that field goal was given up on the fumble. So with less than 3 seconds or whatever to go. So that's really not on the defense. So they really only allowed 23 points. So if they can stay right there as a defense, with our offense, the way that we play and we score, we can win throughout. I mean, not all the games, but we can get into the playoffs and make a good run starting this week. But I think another thing that's really important for our defense, yes, to be in position to get everybody lined up and play smart, but don't, set the edge. You can't let the quarterback break contain. You know what I mean? Don't over pursue. Don't fall back into that mindset where you're over pursuing because last week you got 2 sacks. Now you want to try to get more. Just keep playing heads of football and set the edge. Force that running back into the middle and force the quarterback back into the middle and let that pocket collapse around him. And then, T3, you said it. We got to get some turnovers. We got to start forcing turnovers. That's key. Some strip sacks, Kwiatkowski, or Littleton. Like, show up, Littleton, and make those plays. Abram, Abram needs to get some interceptions too. The guy's an enforcer, but he needs to get some interceptions. That way they're worried about him in the box and they're worried about him over the top. The next man mentality, the next man up mentality, that's got to continue to succeed, be successful. Our players need to continue to be successful, stepping up for the injured players because there's too many injured players right now. But coaching, and that goes to coaching. So we talked about Tom Cable coaching up the offensive line. Gunther has to do the same thing with all these injuries, and I'm hoping that Isaiah Johnson can be consistent. So, man, consistency, set the edge, get some turnovers, and then on the offense, Ruggs needs to take the top off the defense no matter what, whether he's catching the ball or not. He's got to take the top off the defense because we like to run the ball. If he's taking the top off the defense, then we're going to control the clock, and then our defense can get on there, play smart, and then boom, there we go. We're on our way to the playoffs.
Sounds good. I think that if we don't pull off the win this week, it would be a big letdown. We're supposed to win this week. And that should set us up pretty good for a strong push for the playoffs.
Speaking of, this week, I think the Raiders need to take the ball first, as I mentioned earlier, given the choice, and then take that ball and perform a blitzkrieg on the Broncos, similar to that 59-14 demolition back in 2010. I still go back and watch that game occasionally. It makes me feel good. Now, Drew Lock thought he was all world when he led that comeback against the Chargers 2 weeks ago, but I don't think he's that great. And I certainly don't think he's as good as what we saw last week in heralded rookie Justin Herbert. I do, however, believe in 2 things. Number one, I believe in a steady dose of Josh Jacobs and a return to that ball control offense, which will keep the Broncos offense sitting on the bench. And second, I believe in Darren Waller and Henry Ruggs III. Not that I don't believe in the other receivers, but this is the week where I want to see these 2 guys go off. I'm looking for Waller to get 5 or 6 targets, and Ruggs maybe 4 to 5, in addition to a couple of running plays, and at least 2 touchdowns between the 2 of them, plus 2 by Josh Jacobs. If they do that, I see the Raiders on pace to put up at least 5 touchdowns and cruise to a 41-17 victory.
Nice.
What do you see, Homer?
I think, we'll probably win the game. I'm thinking we're going to win the game 31-24. I just said 23 under 23 points, but the defense is not quite there yet. Let's see them set the edge. Let's see them get some turnovers. But I'm going to go with 34-24 this week.
And I've got the Raiders taking it 34-17.
All right, Raider Nation, give us a call at 904-701-8667 and give us your weekly predictions. You can leave us a voicemail or a text message at that number, or you can send us a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts.
Okay, and that brings us to our next special segment.
Hey Homer, did you know?
All right. Now, I found a very interesting stat in the 2020 World Almanac this week. Bear in mind, it was before the start of the 2020 season. Who are the 3 quarterbacks in Raiders history who are among the top 20 all-time passing leaders with a minimum of 1,500 attempts ranked by quarterback rating points? And Homer, I think you probably know who one of them is.
I'm going to take a wild guess. Is one of them Derek Carr?
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct. But he's actually number 19 on the list. There's 2 Raiders ahead of him. So here are the answers. Ranked at number 16 is Marcus Mariota with 1,605 attempts and a rating of 89.4. And here's the one that stumped me. Ranked just behind him at number 17 is Matt Schaub with 3,281 attempts and a rating of 89.1. By the way, the top 4 are in order: Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady.
You know what? The Derek Carr haters are going to be like, see, that's why we should be starting Marcus Mariota.
Wow. Yeah, Matt Schaub is better than Derek Carr.
Let them talk. Let them talk.
Now, Derek Carr, he beat out Matt Schaub, right?
Correct.
That first year he came in? Yeah, that's cool. I got 2 right. Woohoo!
There you go.
Oh, yeah, well, you know what? That was a great segment. Or let's go ahead and get to the best segment of the show that I came up with. It's called Heidi's Heroes.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Michael Marionetti from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, is confined to a wheelchair due to chronic relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. His wife lost her job because of COVID. That didn't change the fact that they needed a wheelchair-accessible van. They held a GoFundMe to try to raise funds for one, however the going was long and slow. Enter a guy named Carl Nassib. He was on the internet one day and came across their story. He felt moved to send them a message. He said, "Hello, my name is Carl Nassib. I stumbled across your account recently, and I was inspired by you and your family. I am a Christian and have strong faith in God like yourselves. I would very much like to purchase you a new wheelchair-accessible van." Liliana, Michael's wife, had been trying to raise funds for the van for the past 4 years. Over 4 years, actually. She couldn't believe the message. She thought, is this for real? Yes, it was. Carl said in a follow-up message, "I've played in the NFL for 5 years now, and would have no way gotten this to this point without God by my side. I promised him that I will always pay it forward, and he decided to show me your profile on my Explore page. I couldn't ignore it." Carl did indeed buy the family a new van, 2020 Dodge Caravan. Michael and Lulani can now go almost anywhere they want or need to go. Thanks, Carl. This makes you my hero this week.
What a great story. And all I have to say is Raiders for life.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and that doesn't come off the Raiders website or any big news page or anything. That was a little Instagram post that I ran across. He did it out of the goodness of his heart. He felt led to do it. He did it. He did it quietly. And he made such a difference in that family's life.
And, you know, we've mentioned this before on the podcast, but that's exactly something that Al Davis would have done.
Yep.
Yeah, It is.
This really shows the kind of character that they're looking for in players. You know, Josh Jacobs bought his family a house. A lot of players do that, but considering his storyline, that was something that was special. And now Nassib doing this. I mean, it's through and through. These Raider players, even though like with the Darren Waller fundraiser, they raised $300,000, even though they got some criticism because of COVID. But these players, they want to give back to their community. They want to help people. I mean, and it's inspiring to see that we're drafting these kind of players and we're not signing dumbasses like Javon Walker back in the day. We are going after good, solid football players that want to be a part of their community.
People can say what they want around the country, and Colin Cowherd and talking heads around the ESPN and other agencies and broadcast networks can say what they want, but the Raider Shield means a lot, not just to the league, but to the fans around the country.
You know what player I miss the most, though, who really embodied that? Antonio Brown.
Oh.
I'm kidding, dude. I'm talking about the team chemistry that he managed to destroy in one half this week.
I still find it funny that every time they show a picture of Antonio Brown, they show him in a Raiders uniform, despite the fact they never played a down for him in his life.
It's because it's the best one.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks again to our listeners for joining us on the Only Nation podcast.
Give us a call, Raider Nation. Call us at 904-701-8667. Leave a voicemail or send a text message to that number. You can also email us at onlynationpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at onlynationpod. And look for us on Facebook and YouTube. Just search The Only Nation Podcast.
Be sure to like and subscribe to us on your favorite social media account and podcast app. Don't forget to send us a message with your name and address, and we'll get some free Raider swag sent out to you. Also, check out our website at onlynationpod.com.
Until next time, everyone, hopefully I'll have my voice and I'll be able to really say, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
Raiders!
Dear God. What was that?
The return of Scooby-Doo. Not so great.
Did Scooby die?
Scooby has COVID.
I'm a Raider till I die, Scooby-Doo.
Poor Scooby.
Oh, man.